So have you ever really stopped to think why losing something, say 10 pounds, often feels so much worse than the happiness you get from, I don't know, finding 20?
It's a really common human experience, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, this weird imbalance, the asymmetry of loss and gain. It kind of shapes everything, our decisions, memories, what we want, that sudden wet punch when you think you might lose something.
Yeah, sharp feeling.
Compared to the satisfaction when you actually get what you wanted, which, well, it often just seems to vanish pretty quickly. It's a huge contrast.
It really is. And what's fascinating, we're drawing on an article called The Asymmetry of Loss and Gain from Think with Setaleur. And we're going to explore this, like you said, not just psychologically,
Right.
but also looking at it culturally, maybe even existentially.
Yeah.
Because understanding why we feel lost so much more deeply than gain, it can tell us a lot about, well, desire, memory, and how we decide what's actually valuable to us.
Okay, so that's our mission today then, to really dig into why our minds seem wired this way. Why does fear seem to leave a bigger mark than pleasure?
Yeah, what are the roots of that?
And what does it all mean for how we live, how we chase things, and maybe how we even define what matters? So as we go through this, maybe you listening can think about your own experiences with this feeling.
That's a great idea. Connect it back.
So where do we start unpacking this? I guess the most basic reason has to be, well, biology, right? Survival.
Absolutely, that's the bedrock.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily speaking, losing something critical, think shelter, food, maybe your connection to the group.
Yeah, the essentials.
Exactly. That meant immediate danger, a real threat to your existence. So our brains, especially parts like the amygdala, they evolved to sound a much, much louder alarm for threats, for potential loss, than for potential rewards.
Okay, so it's a safety mechanism first.
Totally. It made sure we reacted fast to avoid losing something crucial. It's basically stay alive first, worry about being happy later.
Yeah.
And this deep wiring means even today, your brain can kind of overreact to small setbacks, almost like they're huge threats. It makes us avoid risk sometimes, even when the potential gain is big.
That makes so much sense. And the article we looked at, it had some really powerful examples of this. Like, think about it, the fear of losing someone close. That can totally consume you way more than just the quiet comfort of having them around day to day.
That's a very true one.
Or the fear of missing out on some big opportunity, that anxiety can keep you tossing and turning all night.
Yeah.
But then, if you actually get the opportunity, the high you feel, it's often surprisingly short-lived.
Fleeting. Yeah.
It's just like the source said, fear etches deeper grooves in memory than pleasure does. It's almost funny, right? We'll agonize for hours over losing our keys, but barely notice the simple relief of having them safely in our pocket every day.
It's true. And thinking about that ancient wiring, how it shapes our immediate reactions, that also really flows into how we experience desire itself. Which brings us to the next point, which is that excitement, the feeling of wanting something. It's almost always forward-facing. It lives in the future, in what could be.
Right, anticipation.
Exactly. Potential.
So that's a really key difference then, because once we actually get the thing we wanted, well, the mystery is gone.
Right. The unknown just collapses into well-known reality.
And the newness, the excitement factor, it just fades. You go from thinking, what could this be like, to just, this is what it is. And the imagination, which was working overtime, fueling that desire, suddenly it's got nothing to do. It just goes quiet.
But contrast that with losing something, or even just nearly losing something. That keeps the imagination working hard.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps throwing up those questions, doesn't it? What if I lose this for good? Or what might have happened if I'd done something different?
Well, what did I just miss out on? Yeah, those loops.
Exactly. The mind seems to replay those what-ifs over and over. And interestingly, it often dwells on them for much, much longer than it ever really celebrates getting something.
So it's not just about regret. It's like our brain is stuck trying to process something that feels unfinished.
Precisely. It's trying to close that loop, but it can't.
Yeah.
And that can actually be mentally exhausting, running those what-if scenarios instead of just appreciating the what is.
Okay, so if imagination fuels desire and loss keeps imagination active, what about when the desire is for something we can't have or can't guarantee?
Well, that taps into another kind of quirk of human nature, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like we often want most what feels just out of reach, that little bit of uncertainty.
Exactly. Scarcity makes things feel more valuable, ramps up our emotional investment. Risk adds a kind of drama, an intensity.
Right.
And that uncertainty that can really fuel obsession. We get drawn into the chase, the feeling of something untamed.
You see that everywhere, don't you? But then, once you have the thing...
Then it's known. It's yours. Contained, manageable.
Yeah. But those moments of almost lost it, or the classic what could have been, they stay wild, emotionally speaking?
They do. Unresolved.
And maybe that's why they stick around in our head so much longer. Like the article says, the mind clings to what feels incomplete, not what's finished.
It's a powerful quote. It suggests our minds are almost designed to grapple with open possibilities, maybe even more than enjoying closed ones.
So it's not just our individual psychology, then?
No, not at all. Building right on that, there's a huge societal element, too. Our cultures often condition us in a certain way.
How so?
Well, think about what gets rewarded. Ambition, progress, getting ahead. It's often celebrated much more than, say, simple contentment or appreciating what you already have. We're kind of trained to chase, not necessarily to hold.
That really rings true. It feels like we're taught from a young age, right? Get the grade, okay, now what's the next test?
Yeah.
Get the job, okay, what's the next promotion?
Exactly. The next goal, the next version of ourselves, the next win. It feels like the moment something is actually achieved, we're almost immediately encouraged to look past it.
Yeah, what's next on the horizon? It does feel a bit like a treadmill sometimes.
It really does. And you can even see this reflected in our language, our rituals. We have loads of words for beginnings, launch, kickoff, new beginning.
Right, and endings too.
And endings too, closure, letting go, final chapter. But think about it. How often do we really have words or rituals that truly honor the middle part?
The just having it, the ongoing presence.
Exactly. That quiet, steady state of simply having, it doesn't get the same attention. So culturally, there's this subtle pressure, maybe not so subtle, to kind of devalue what we've just obtained and keep our eyes fixed on the next prize.
So we're sort of always living in future desire rather than present gratitude?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
The cultural narrative pushes us forward.
Okay, so we've got biology, the nature of desire, the allure of the uncertain, and societal conditioning.
Wow.
It all seems to point in the same direction.
It does, and it all kind of comes together in this final point, which is about how our memory works.
Okay.
The brain seems to remember contrast much more vividly than it remembers consistency.
Contrast. Okay, explain that.
Well, losing something, or nearly losing it, creates a really sharp emotional contrast, right? You go from feeling safe to feeling threatened, maybe from hopeful to fearful.
That's a jolt.
Exactly. A dramatic internal shift. It's high contrast, emotionally speaking, and the brain flags that immediately as important information, worth remembering.
Ah, like a bright flash in a steady landscape.
That's a good way to put it. Your brain isn't just recording a smooth video. It's like it's putting big red tags on moments of high emotional change, especially changes that feel threatening.
Okay, which is very different from gaining something.
Generally, yes. Gaining something might start with excitement, sure, but what follows is usually comfort, relief.
Ah, no sharp drop or spike. More like leveling off.
Right, there's usually no dramatic contrast after the gain. It's more of a settling, which helps explain that poignant example from the source.
Oh, yeah.
About how the one that got away is often remembered with so much more intensity than the one who stayed.
That hits home.
Because, as it says, the mind records emotional edges, not emotional continuity. That sudden edge, that shift, that's what gets logged most clearly in our memory banks.
Wow. Okay, so putting all this together, what's the takeaway for us, for you listening?
Well, I think just recognizing this asymmetry, this built-in bias towards loss, can be really powerful. It can bring a lot more self-awareness.
How so?
It pushes us to ask some tough but important questions.
Yeah.
Like, are we chasing this thing because we genuinely value it? Or are we maybe just driven by the fear of not having it, the fear of its absence?
That's a big one. Am I running towards something or away from something else?
Exactly. And another question. Are we actually present with the good things we already have? Or have we, maybe unconsciously, already mentally checked out and moved on to the next desire the moment we got it?
That really makes you think. And it leads right into that question from the source that really stuck with me.
Which one was that?
Can we train ourselves to feel the weight of presence the same way we feel the weight of potential loss?
Oof. Yeah, that's a challenge, isn't it? Yeah, can we learn to value what is as intensely as we fear what might not be?
It's something really worth wrestling with personally.
I agree. Perhaps, real wisdom lies somewhere in that balance. Not just appreciating things as they disappear, which our instincts make us pretty good at,
Right.
but also truly learning how to deeply feel, to experience what has already arrived, what's right here, right now.
That's a really powerful thought to end on. We hope this deep dive gives you some food for thought about how this asymmetry might be playing out in your own life with your own goals and desires.